The old Victorian house loomed, a spectre against the dying light. Its silhouette, jagged and foreboding, seemed to cut through the twilight, casting long, sinister shadows that stretched across the ground like grasping fingers. The air around it was thick with an unspoken dread, a palpable sense of foreboding that made the hairs on the back of one's neck stand on end. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out blankly. They seemed to follow you no matter where you stood, as if the house itself was watching, waiting. The glass panes, cracked and clouded with age, held secrets of a bygone era, whispering tales of sorrow and despair to those who dared to listen. Ivy, like grasping claws, choked the stone facade. The green tendrils wound their way up the walls, relentless and unyielding, as if trying to reclaim the house for nature. The once grand architecture was now a battleground where the forces of time and neglect waged a silent war against the remnants of human ambition. This was Blackmoor Manor, a place whispered about in hushed tones, a place where shadows danced to the music of the damned. Legends spoke of restless spirits and cursed souls trapped within its walls, their mournful cries echoing through the night. The manor was a magnet for the curious and the brave, yet many who entered never returned, their fates sealed by the darkness that dwelled within. Old house. The air hung heavy, thick with the stench of decay and the weight of unseen eyes. Every step taken within its halls was met with a sense of intrusion, as if the very walls resented the presence of the living. The floorboards groaned underfoot, each creak a reminder of the house's age and the countless secrets it held. Inside, dust motes danced in the faint moonlight that pierced the grime-coated windows. The beams of light, weak and struggling, cast an ethereal glow on the decaying interior, highlighting the layers of dust and neglect that had accumulated over the years. It was a place frozen in time, where the past lingered like a ghost, refusing to be forgotten. Cobwebs, like ghostly shrouds, draped the furniture. The once elegant pieces, now covered in a thick layer of dust and neglect, stood as silent witnesses to the passage of time. Each piece told a story of a life once lived, now forgotten. Their owners long gone, but their presence still felt in the air. The silence was broken only by the creaking of the house, an ancient beast sighing in its sleep. The sound echoed through the empty rooms, a haunting reminder of the life that once filled the manor. It was as if the house itself was alive, breathing and watching, waiting for the next soul to cross its threshold and become part of its dark history. Grim was no ordinary cat. His coat was the colour of midnight, absorbing what little light dared to penetrate the gloom of Blackmoor. His eyes, twin embers, burned with an unnatural intelligence. They missed nothing.
He moved like a phantom, silent and deadly. He was the master of this domain, the king of his castle of shadows. His senses, sharpened by years spent within these haunted walls, were attuned to the slightest sound, the faintest scent. He could smell fear, and it was intoxicating.
Squeak, a tiny brown mouse with eyes like black beads, knew every nook and cranny of Blackmoor. He was a creature of instinct, driven by an insatiable hunger and a primal need to survive. His world was one of darkness and fear, a world where survival depended on speed and cunning.
He had evaded Grim countless times, his small size allowing him to navigate the labyrinthine passages hidden within the walls. But tonight, something felt different. The air crackled with an unseen energy, and the shadows themselves seemed to writhe.
A low growl rumbled deep within Grim's throat. It was a sound that echoed through the dark, empty corridors, a warning to any who dared to cross his path. He had scented his prey, tasted the mouse's fear on the air. The scent was intoxicating, a promise of the hunt that lay ahead. He padded down the hallway, his every movement a study in predatory grace. Each step was deliberate, each muscle coiled and ready to spring. He knew this house, knew its secrets as well as his own mind. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind through the cracks was familiar to him.
Secrets that whispered to him, guided him. They were his allies in this ancient game of predator and prey.
The house groaned, a symphony of settling wood and unseen forces. It was alive, a living entity that shifted and changed with the night. Walls shifted, familiar paths closed and new ones opened. The house was a labyrinth, constantly evolving, a puzzle that only Grim could solve. The maze that Squeak knew so well was changing, becoming a deadly trap. Each turn was a new challenge, each shadow a potential threat.
Panic welled within him, cold and sharp. His heart raced, his breath came in short, ragged gasps. The walls seemed to close in around him, suffocating him with their oppressive presence. Squeak ran.
He scrambled through walls, his heart pounding a frantic tattoo against his ribs. The air grew colder, the darkness deeper. He could feel Grim's presence, a suffocating weight pressing down on him, herding him towards some unknown destination. Ahead, he saw a glimmer of light. A window, broken and dusty, offered a perilous escape. With a desperate leap, he flung himself towards it, shards of glass biting into his flesh. He tumbled out onto the cold, damp grass, the taste of freedom bittersweet on his tongue. But freedom was an illusion. Squeak had always believed that if he could just escape the confines of Blackmoor, he would be free. But now, standing in this unfamiliar room, he realized how naive he had been. As Squeak struggled to his feet, he realized with a growing horror that he stood not on the grounds of Blackmoor, but within a room he had never seen before. The walls seemed to close in on him, and the shadows danced menacingly. The air here was thick with the scent of decay, the floor littered with bones. Each step he took crunched underfoot, sending shivers down his spine. The room was a graveyard, a testament to the countless souls that had perished here.
"What is this place?" Squeak whispered, his voice trembling with fear. His eyes darted around, searching for any sign of escape, but there was none.
And in the centre of the room, bathed in the eerie light of a single flickering candle, sat Grim. The cat's presence was both a comfort and a terror, a reminder of the pact Squeak had made. A low purr vibrated in his chest, his eyes gleaming with an almost human amusement. Grim's eyes seemed to pierce through Squeak, seeing into his very soul. He had not chased Squeak, not in the traditional sense. Instead, he had manipulated events, guiding Squeak to this very moment. Every decision, every turn had been orchestrated by Grim. He had lured him, drawn him into a game where the rules were ever-changing and the outcome always the same. Squeak was a pawn, a piece in Grim's twisted game of fate and destiny.
"You thought you could escape?" Grim's voice echoed in the room, a chilling reminder of the power he held. "But freedom, my dear Squeak, is just another illusion." Squeak's heart sank as the weight of his situation settled upon him. He was trapped, ensnared in a web of deceit and manipulation with no way out. The candle flickered one last time before plunging the room into darkness, leaving Squeak alone with his fears and the haunting presence of Grim.
Terror, cold and paralyzing, gripped Squeak. He understood now. There was no escape, not truly. Not from this house, not from this creature. He was trapped in a nightmare, a macabre game of cat and mouse destined to repeat for all eternity. And so it began again, the chase, the desperate scramble for survival, the fleeting moments of hope dashed against the unyielding reality of his situation. Every shadow held Grim's presence, every corner a potential trap. Blackmoor, the haunted house, had become his prison. its twisted corridors a reflection of his own inescapable fate. He was a prisoner in a game he could never win, a pawn in a game played by forces beyond his comprehension. Time lost all meaning. Days and nights blurred into an endless cycle of pursuit and terror. Squeak grew gaunt, his fur matted, his eyes clouded with despair. The spark of defiance that had once burned within him dwindled, replaced by a weary acceptance of his fate. Grim, ever watchful, seemed to draw strength from Squeak's fear. He was the embodiment of the house's darkness, its malevolence given form. And Squeak, the hapless prey, was bound to him, his existence intertwined with the cat's in a macabre dance of predator and prey. The hunt continued. It would continue, Squeak knew. Long after his small body gave out, long after his spirit joined the other restless souls trapped within Blackmoor's walls. For in this haunted house, beneath the gaze of a watchful moon, the game never truly ended. It merely began anew, a testament to the cruel and timeless nature of predator and prey, a chilling reminder that some nightmares have no end.